All right, we are live for the Monday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, looking forward to connecting and finding out, I guess, what you guys are keeping your eyes on, as well as just touching on some of the relevant stories that will make this day a very interesting day to say the least, as well as this week. But looks like a lot of tit for tat, trade war spats back and forth, 25% here, retaliation here, all along. In the midst of all that, the fiat currencies are the primary tools that will be, I guess, hindered or harmed in the users of it. So we're going to touch on that and why, regardless of whichever currency you use primarily, gold is still winning. And I'm going to show you some interesting graphs on the last 24 hours of activity when you take fiat and you value it against gold, which is the key staple in the global monetary system. And we have other things to touch on as far as the Doge developments with the amount of currency Elon said he can save our country and all the other crime and corruption we always face. So anyway, we're going to do the typical format, get into some good news, get you spiritually charged up this morning, get into some resources, market activity, and then we'll cover some of those stories that I consider to be the noise at the end of the day. Because no matter what, as we move forward, we're going to see more disruptions, distractions, and diversion tactics. That's just how this thing operates. So we're going to have some fun with it this morning. And let me make sure everything is flowing smoothly before I begin my discussions this morning. So for those who are plugged in, definitely let me know if the audio is coming in good. Let me know if the visuals coming in good so we can make it go. Should have chopped that chain, Mike. Should have chopped that chain. Oh, I mean, I got the chain. I got the gold chain. I got it. Come on now. Yeah, I got it. I mean, I'm not really a jewelry guy, but I got one. So it's just me. But anyway, uh, yeah, let's talk about that. So let me make sure I'm flowing smoothly. Then we'll get into it. Want to make sure everything is showing up on my end here, and I'm not talking to myself. That'll definitely be the worst. So, all right. So it looks like everything is flowing smoothly. Okay. So as always, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the good news. And then we'll get into some resources and then get into noise. Want to be short, concise, and to the point. Want to make this work everyone's time here. All right. Let me get back here and go over here. Bring this on the screen here. So as you can see, February 3rd, this is the good news for the day. It says the greatness of the least in the kingdom. All right, let's touch on this. Let me make it bigger so I can see it. It says, did you know that John the Baptist was called the greatest among those born of women? Yet Jesus said, he's the least in the kingdom of heaven, is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Matthew 11:11. It says, why? Because John was the last prophet of the old covenant, preparing the way for the king. But the kingdom Jesus brought isn't just about prophets. It's about the sons and daughters walking into divine authority. It says, you see, in the kingdom, status isn't based on earthly position, but on heavenly citizenship. Even the least in God's kingdom carries more authority than the greatest prophet of the past. So this means you, as a kingdom citizen, have access to a greater revelation, power, and relationship with the Father than even John had. So don't live beneath your kingdom rights. Embrace your identity, walk in authority, and expand the kingdom. And then the closing question is, are you living beneath your kingdom authority today? Just something worth pondering on as you get started and go throughout your day. Are you taking full advantage of the access that has been granted to you by the sacrifice Christ paid for you? Just something to think about. Okay. All right. That's a good word this morning that got me charged up, and I wanted to just pass it forward. That's all. Just pass it forward, and hopefully it does the same for you. All right, let's get into some resources, and then we'll get into some of the noise. All right. So as always, for those who might be new, you never know. We have a lot of interesting developments right now. And the trade war being the focal point. Stock market's not doing well. Crypto market's not doing well. But then again, gold is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is remain sound, true, and tested, and as a preservation mechanism for people's financial future. So if you're interested in finding out more about a self-directed IRA, which allows you to take possession of your retirement in the form of gold and silver, then consider clicking the link in the description here or going to colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD, and you have a chance to fill out this form, download this PDF here, get some information and education on that particular avenue there. And if it's of interest to you, they consider using Colonials Metals Group as a way to get that done. So once again, colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD, links in the description. Check it out. Next, I want to talk about because gold is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Here we have on the screen, if I can get it, we have what I consider to be the most affordable gold, and those are the gold backs. And so, as you see on the screen here, we have an assortment of gold backs. And so, of course, it is a good way of diversifying out of fiat paper, which is the medium of choice which confiscates wealth. So if you're interested in getting a hold of these, then just click the link in the description. It'll take you right to this page here to buygoldnotes.com. And you can grab yourself some of these, which is ultimately just a way of redeeming these to get something that is actually worth holding, in my opinion, for the long run. So just an option for those who have interest. So check it out if you guys would like to. And then next, I want to make sure everyone has a chance to find out more about the Quicksilver Wealth Accelerator program and become a member of the Silver Team. So if you're interested, and this page here is of interest to you, you can actually get one yourself where you can share it with your family and friends and have a chance to help other people get their weight up in a variety of formats, but in particular silver. And also for participating, you can actually get auto shipment where you can have an actual American Eagle sent or a Silver Eagle sent to you monthly on auto ship, as well as some other products. And then if you want to just get a sample, as you can see here on the screen, you have a chance to get a free 1 gram Val Candy bar. Just pay for shipping and handling, and you get some information with it. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, just click the link in the description or go to mysilverteam.com and you can get all the information you need there. And so one thing, as I mentioned, what excites me most is be able to provide resources. So on my end here, just trying to figure out ways to help people strategize around the obvious, what I consider to be the debt and deficits and destruction that's coming that we're in the midst of now. So having people or giving people options is what excites me most. So I'm always looking forward to learning and growing and using what I actually recommend. So anyway, with that being the case, let's get into some market activity, man. Let's just check in what's happening right now in the markets because the conventional legacy system isn't doing the greatest, and it's to be expected because that's all the kind of like some of the headwinds of being caught up in this monetary storm that we're witnessing. And let me get on the screen here. So, as you can see on the screen, let me minimize myself a little bit. So, as of right now, this is what we're looking at: 2,800 pieces of paper for 1 ounce of gold. And just last week, when I was talking, it was at 2,700 pieces of paper for 1 ounce of gold. And so to see that it's gone up a good, let me see. I mean, what we looking at? So it's gone up $28 since we last connected, I think, or around there. And to see silver right now at $31 or 31 pieces of paper for 1 ounce. Once again, this is a very small figure compared to where it will go potentially. But then again, once again, take advantage of the opportunities. Platinum palladium is below 1,000. You better believe platinum's going to go low. Palladium's going to go up above 1,000 just because the Federal Reserve note has to go down. And that's a part of this whole great reset that we're in. And clearly, in my opinion, Trump is well aware of this reset and how he's going to try to get as much remaining purchasing power out of the Federal Reserve note as he can before whatever, his recommendation or solution will be. And of course, it's going to be digital in nature. They'll never go backwards towards gold and silver as a standard, but it's just something that you should do for yourself, I believe. Never trust your government one bit. Okay, let's get into some other activity here. So, just taking a quick glance at the markets, and as I refresh my screen here, it looks like there is a slight recovery in the crypto space. I'm not sure what the news is about that, but Bitcoin is at 99,000 and it was down to, I think, 94. And so let me just zoom in here. So it got down to 95. So over the last day, it got down to 92, forgive me, $92,000 from 99. It looks to be recovering quite well back to 99. Ethereum is got down to 2,400 and from 3,000, and it is also going back up a couple hundred. So clearly, it looks like the metals and the crypto markets will get a boost well in advance before the stock market. And so just to take a glance at the stock, I'm going to refresh my screen here. And so I see a little bit of green more than it was a couple minutes ago when I refreshed it. But as of right here, this is what we're looking like as of today. in the equities market. So Nvidia still not doing well. A lot of that deep seek stuff is really impacted it. Apple's down a little bit. And so the Magnificent Seven holds the entire economy together, it seems. So yeah, Trump definitely will need to do something as far as jawboning the markets back up, or else he will get some backlash because the system will love to just come down on his watch and they can blame everything that the previous administration did on him. So we'll see how this goes. But let's get into some of the other stories of today. And as always, for those who are joining us, all the information I'm going to share with you will be found on the rtd.news page that I get up here in a second so that we can actually look at that. Okay, let me refresh my screen here so I can get it going. And then we'll jump into some headlines. And as always, for those who are paying attention, let me know where you're watching from and what you're keeping your eyes on. Feel free to drop it in the chat or in the comment section if you're watching the replay. And so here we have on the screen rtd.news, links in the description, take you right to where I'm going. And so ultimately what I do is I grab all the articles relevant to what I'm going to talk about and I put it here as well as everything else throughout the day. So I try to make this a valuable resource for those that want to just go straight to the news from an alternative perspective. So I put a lot of uh, commentaries from other people on here as well as just some latest trends on X. And so right now what's trending on X is the very first one. Trump tariffs ignite global trade conflict. And so that was trending this morning, and there's no reason, is obvious reason why that is. But let me just refresh this so people can get, we can get caught up to speed on what's happening. So this is the last updated 2 hours ago, but it's official. The tariffs are activated as of this past weekend. It looks like as of today, 3 p.m., Donald Trump is supposed to be talking with Trudeau over the phone on how they're going to resolve this. But once again, why would they even let it get to this point, apart from the fact that this is a part of the distraction of what I believe is an intended trade spat, all centered around trying to, I guess, execute Trump's policies of making America great again at the expense of other nations. And so it's going to force other countries to have to really respond. And ultimately, all they're going to do is use the currencies as, hedges, as well as ways to prop up the system as it's coming down, because I do believe that this is all intentional as a distraction, as I referenced, on the greater picture, which is the debt implosion and the fact that we are currently, if you look at all the indicators, in a economic slowdown. And so they need as much distraction type of things to really divert our attention off of, because the only thing that will come is just more currency. That's just how it goes. So here's a couple of things that's going on today. It says here, starting today, and until U.S. tariffs are removed, Ontario is banning American companies from provincial contracts. And so it says every year the Ontario government and its agencies spend $30 billion on procurement alongside other 200 billion plan to build Ontario. So Ontario is banning American companies. Ooh, woohoo! And so that's something that is a retaliatory response to Donald Trump's tariffs. And then we got more stuff here. It looks like Ontario Premier Doug announced on Monday that the province is canceling $100 million contract with Elon Musk's Starlink. So once again, $100 million, I'm sure is not going to dent Elon's pocket. He's the richest Fiat holder in the world, so I don't think that's going to be a problem for him. And it goes on. It says President Trump says he's just spoke with Canada Justice Trudeau and will be speaking to him again today at 3 p.m. So the question is, what would we expect to come from this? Some type of negotiation, or will Trudeau, who supposedly is on his way out, concede and actually give in to what Trump wants? And could Trump possibly be using this as a way to have Canada join the U.S., and to make America great again, as he's touting he's wanting to do? So we'll find out. But it says Canada doesn't even allow U.S. banks to open or do business there. So they don't allow U.S. banks to open or do business there. And so, like, is he like going to war now for the banks? Like, what difference does it make if the banks are there or not? They already have a system that's heavily indebted because of their real estate market. So, what good would your more U.S. banks do in that country? So it looks like he's advocating for the banks. And then it says, let me zoom out here. I didn't mean to zoom. I didn't mean to click on it, but give me a second here. Let me get this going here. So just talking about some of the headlines is worth touching on. It says And what's that all about? It says many such things, but it's also a drug war. And hundreds of thousands of people have died in the US from drugs pouring through the borders of Mexico and Canada. Just spoke to Joe. So it's amazing to me that at this current moment, the whole fentanyl, the drug war is a talking point amongst many other things from this administration, as if like he has to really put a nip that in the bud now. But once again, those who pay attention to alternative media, we know the biggest drug dealers happen to be the governments. And so there's a lots of drug rings being ran and facilitated by our government, but yet he wants to highlight how drug war is important and they're coming through the borders of Mexico and Canada. And how have they been doing that for the last umpteen decades? And all of a sudden now it's a primary talking point that he has to nip in the bud. And tariffs is a way of helping to do that. So, who knows? But we know that this is a part of a greater plan. Okay, so what else we got here? Just some more noise worth touching on. Dow Jones has already dropped 500 points this morning due to Donald Trump tariff. So, yeah, they're blaming an economy that was already having issues on Donald Trump and these tariffs. So, if tariffs are the focal point, what were they prior to now? We had the lies of we had a great economy because of the great job Biden did and yada yada yada. Okay, yeah, it gets kind of old after a while. But tariffs will be the reason why the currency situation is going to continue until there's a solution put forth by the same people who are the problem. And so, just to give you an idea as to how, regardless of the spit, the tit for tat war, let's just look at the impact on people's purchasing power because Donald Trump will do Donald Trump. Debt will continue to increase and be problematic. And eventually the spigot will be cut back on and currency will be used as a counter to all the issues that are a problem from the damn currency. And all along, the people in between, the users and the ones that work and earn and save and invest in these fiat currencies, i.e., the Federal Reserve note, which will be the last currency to experience the greatest problems, will be everyone's problem. So let me just share with you outside of what we're being told, let's just watch as to what the markets are actually doing. And so on the screen here, if I can bring it up, refresh my screen, we're going to look at a couple currencies here. And I'll show you exactly how, despite the tariffs, despite the fact that, let me just share this with you real quick, because the talking heads are saying the dollar is strengthening against other currencies. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. But here we have the refresh screen here. And as of right now, it looks like the Dixie just literally within the last, let me see, within the last 30 minutes or so, the dollar has trended down a little bit. So I'd assume it has everything to do with the recent announcement that's about to come on the screen here, referencing that NASDAQ trim losses as Mexico touts Trump tariff delay. So it looks like Donald Trump, I guess after speaking with Trudeau, has decided to pause. So it says here, Trump also says tariffs against Mexico are paused. So here we have what looks like some breaking news. And as a result of that, that's why the dollar index came down slightly. So it says US Donald Trump on Monday joined his Mexican counterpart in saying tariffs would be paused for a month. So the tariffs haven't even been active for 48 hours and there's going to be a 1 month pause. So how and what will be worked out in this 1 month, who knows? But I guess if you impose extra taxes on a nation, it forces them to respond. They got to come to the table and talk. And it says he said that they are agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a 1 month period during which we will have negotiations. Trump said in a social media post that he had just had a very friendly conversation with the Mexican president, adding that she agreed to immediately pause 10,000 Mexican. Oh, I'm sorry. She immediately agreed to supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the U.S. southern border who will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into the country. So as a result, it looks like there's been some type of agreement that will lead to more security on the southern border and the fentanyl stopping from coming up south. Okay, so I guess that's the positive news, and that's as a result of that. That's why the Dixie has declined a little bit, or the dollar has come down some because a too high of a dollar is problematic for this administration. So I guess this is a good thing for the Biden administration, or not Biden, but the Trump administration, because he needs a much lower dollar. But regardless of this, this is how the world, from an investment standpoint in financial capital markets, they view the Dixie as a key staple because it is the global reserve currency. But for the average person who realizes what's at stake here, which is the currencies are problematic, we don't use the Dixie as a measuring stick. We use physical weight, i.e., gold or silver, depending on where you're at and what you prefer. Me personally, from a global monetary standpoint, I measure every fiat against gold. And as of right now, gold is still winning regardless of what happens. Let's touch on this. So let me bring on the screen here. So here we have the Australian dollar. So for my people in Australia, we got a couple of the community there. Over the past year, the gold has been performing quite well, where the Australian dollar is down. And just within the last day, it looks like the Australian dollar is still not performing well when valued in gold because it's down an entire percent. That's just the Australian dollar. Let's just look at the British pound real quick. Over the last year, the pound has decreased in value up to 28%. Over the last day, it is down almost half of a point. And so let's keep it moving. And so, mind you, as a result of this tariff that just was paused, it looks like there is a surge. Move myself over here. It looks like gold is slightly going down when measured in fiat, because we can see from this little surge here, it started this morning. But nevertheless, everything remains the same. Gold over the long term, as we can see here, let me refresh my page. As we can see here, in the Canadian dollar over the last year, gold has preserved purchasing power tremendously, whereas in the Canadian dollar, fiat version has lost 33%. And within the last 24 hours, it's almost a one entire percentage point. And as of now, that's why everything seems to be surging because of this pause. So, as you can see here, fiat currency, when measured in gold, is still in the red. And so, no matter what, we know the long term results of this will be very favorable for those that hold physical gold. So, these are just some things we're paying attention to. And as I'm looking at myself on the screen, it looks like I'm a little delayed here. So, bear with me, people. But let me know if everything is still flowing smoothly, even though I look a little delayed on my side. Uh, Bright Eye Broker says gold 2820. He says, I feel heavier already. Low blood pressure is 109 Dixie gold all time highs. Yeah, I think the all time high for the Dixie is a lot higher than that. We got to go back a while, but we know a strong dollar is problematic for the world as well as Trump's policies because it makes everything more expensive to do business in our direction. And so I don't think he wants that. You can't make America great again if people are not willing and wanting to use our currency because of how expensive it is. And it makes paying back debt in their nations very expensive. So we need a much weaker dollar. Okay, let's get into a couple other stories here. Let me go back here. Some other things worth touching on real quick. Let me go back. All right. So give me one second. Let me bring it up on here. So here is something that goes beyond our borders, but because it's taxpayer dollars, I guess is worth touching on. And so outside of the tariff triggering the stock slump, let me go back here. This is what am I doing? We have Trump cancels all aid to South Africa. And so apparently there's a lot of information out of South Africa where the government there is becoming very problematic towards Caucasians. And so Elon, who's a South American in general, he's bringing more attention to that. And I guess he got into Trump's ear, and Trump decided to cut off aid until the South African government, I guess, gets in line or gets back on board and stop confiscating farmland and things like that. Excuse me. So we'll see. But here's another interesting perspective that we're going to find out more about. Here we have interesting take here where it says Elon Musk says he thinks he can. He thinks So once again, this Doge department is not officially a government entity; it's more like a consultant to Trump. But as of now, Elon Musk and his team has been given access to all of the U.S. government agency accounts, it seems. And so now it looks like he's up in the ante, saying that he believes that he can reduce the deficit by $1 trillion by next year. And so while that sounds good because the deficit at this current moment is, close to about, 2 trillion ish, can he actually get a trillion cut off in the next year? At this current pace, it could be possible. But one thing that comes to my mind is in the meantime, the rest of the world who's being, I guess, burdened by an excessive debt load because of a strong dollar, they're going to continue to have to de-dollarize their economy. So therefore, that's going to put more pressure on the US economy as more nations choose to look for alternatives. And so you can cut the deficit, but what about the actual currency itself, which is not being addressed? Because the purchasing power in our nation's currency is the holders of those currencies' biggest issue. So cutting the deficit sounds good, but then again, that won't give me more purchasing power or more buying power in my pocket. So not quite sure what good that will be towards the end of all this confusion, which will ultimately lead to the currency being exposed as a problem. And so just something we're paying attention to for those who think that Elon can actually pull this off. Because even though he's labeled as a genius, you know, the problems that we face is just not an American problem. It's a global debt problem. So unless he can solve everybody's debt problems, the US is not going to be able to actually pull it off in a timely manner, in my opinion. Okay, a couple other things here. Six things that could get more expensive for Americans after Trump tariffs. So this is an interesting article that came out. It was updated 13 minutes ago. It says, give you an idea of some things that they believe will get more expensive of things that will be imported in. It says cars. Cars are likely to go up in price by $3,000 according to TD Economics. Once again, not many people are like really in the car market on average, I think. Beer, Tennessee whiskey, and tequila will go up. Modelo or Corona could get more expensive for U.S. customers. Ooh, that's going to be a problem. Houses. It says imports of Canadian lumber are set to be hit by import tariffs to the U.S. Trump. To the U.S., Trump has said U.S. has more lumber than we ever use. So we're going to use our own lumber rather than Canadian lumber. Maple syrup will get more expensive. Fuel prices. Canada is America's largest foreign supplier of crude oil. According to the most recent official trade, 61% of oil imported into the U.S. between January and November last year came from Canada. Avocados is going to get more expensive. They come, it says, grown primarily in Mexico. Due to its warm, humid climate, Mexican avocados may make up nearly 90% of U.S. avocado market each year. So here are some other things here that will be affected on this chart. Trump tariffs, which products will be affected? Delivery trucks. We got insulated wire, computers, cars, telephones, broadcasting equipment. So right on down the list of things coming from Mexico. Then you got the blue is China, and electronic batteries and electronics in general comes from Asia. So those may eventually go up. Then we got Canada in the green here. So yeah, it's going to be interesting couple of days as all this stuff is either ironed out or prolonged. Either way, way we look at it. So, and keep it going. Just don't want to stop there. I got a couple other things worth bringing to your attention. Just some things that caught my attention this morning. It looks like Zelensky came out mentioning that out of all the funds that were sent towards his direction, only 76 billion actually made it into Ukraine. So it says Ukraine received 76 billion out of 177 billion that were approved by America. So either Trump or either Zelensky's lying, or literally the biggest money laundering scheme ever pulled off by our own government was just accomplished when this extra 101 billion that went out in aid that the Biden administration loved to send out, it looks like every week, didn't actually go to Ukraine. It went to where? Whose pockets did it line up? I have my suspicions. I'm sure you have yours, but I'll leave that to another day. Then it says here, thousands of anti-ICE protests blocked 101 freeway streets in Los Angeles. So it looks like for my people out in Cali, there's a lot of people in the streets. This was probably, I don't know if this is last night or if it's still going on now, but at the idea of people being deported, we got protests in Georgia. I think some in Florida. We got LA now. So whenever I see people hitting the streets, I wonder how many people are sincere in the fact they care, or are they being paid? Similar to all the movements, Black Lives Matter movement, and all the other movements that take place around our country. There's usually people that's funding those individuals who have all the time in the world to sit out there with signs. They're being compensated for their time. So we'll wait and see. But what could come from it? More chaos, more disruptions, and diversion tactics. All right, what's we got here? Here's something that's interesting. And this is the last story. It says Britain, Britain's return to the gold standard in 1925 revisited. And there's a call by the Bank of England for a paper to discuss returning to the gold standard. So here is actually a report that's found on the Bank of England's .co.uk website, where it says they're calling for paper. So people can submit papers that will help them, I guess, figure out, articulate, or come up with a game plan as to how a gold plan could be revisited. And so it has everything to do with on April 25th, Winston Churchill announced the United Kingdom return to the gold standard. And so they're looking for submissions. We welcome paper proposals that analyze themes relating to the UK's return to gold from the perspective of different disciplines, including economics, finance, economic history, and whatever. We are specifically interested in papers comparing 1925 return to gold standard with other similar historical periods and linking it to contemporary debates in the international monetary system and financial markets. So once again, it's just interesting that the Bank of England is requesting that people submit papers that can link all that together in comparison to how they used to be on a gold standard. So it looks like, even though the gold standard is unlikely, we still have banks that remember and acknowledge gold as something of importance. And that leads me to continue to remind people of the importance of just not focusing on the noise in front of us, because every day there's going to be something in the headlines that will come from Trump's mouth or come from Putin or Russia or whatever. But ultimately, it's all designed to distract you from the long-term picture of how the currency and the debt-based system is going through a restructuring. And I believe every piece of activity that comes from mainstream media as a result of what comes out of DC, regardless of who's in office, is all designed to cover that up. And so if they present cases of as of today, it was announced that Trump's going to pause tariffs on Mexico because they're willing to come to the table. Even though that appears of like, okay, he's winning, or that's a good way of getting his way. He's getting his way. We're going to make America great again. Once again, if our currency is being debased rapidly and nations are choosing to opt out of using it as a preferred medium, then once again, how can our country be great again? So everything is centered around our currency. And I don't see one bit of information coming out of DC from the Trump administration or the Biden administration that would lead me to believe that they're still operating in my best interest, because once again, life will become more expensive because that's how the system operates. And so regardless of who's in office, we still got the same fact that we're down 98% in purchasing power, and that will continue to decrease until there's the need for something else. So regardless of the trade war, this instrument here, which is what we all use as a legal tender, is the problem. So get your weight up, because gold will continue to increase in nominal terms. And eventually, when silver reaches some type of all-time highs, game over, game, set, and match. The Federal Reserve note comes crumbling down, and our government will come up with their solution, which we all know what that will be: a digital version of what we already have now, but more centrally controlled, and a lot of stipulations to go along with it. So once again, those are just some things worth keeping your eyes on, man. We will see how this goes. And so my man on Rumble says, tariffs on the rest of the world versus U.S., who would win? The tariffs are just taxes. So it's taxes on nations, which ultimately will impact the cost of all those goods that are being taxed will be passed on to us. So like I said here, 6 things that will be expensive. So if you're an avocado lover, if Mexico decides to pass tariffs or taxes on avocados, that means when you go to the store, you're going to be spending a little bit more on avocados. So who is actually the winner? Nobody. The people hindered and hurt the most are the actual users of the currency. So the currency is a focal point. So just consider, no matter, there will be no winners in a tariff trade war. Trump will not get exactly what he wants, because on the other end of anything that he believes is successful will be the dollar being used less by whatever country that he think he's winning from. So this is all just a cyclical nature of confusion to hide the fact that the dollar's dying. Anyway, but all right, good people. That have been the case. That's all I have for this morning. Just wanted to share my 2 cents, comment on this, that don't focus on the headlines, focus on the purchasing power and what you don't have in your pocket. So get your weight up, get gold, get silver, get whatever it is that you will use to preserve yourself, as far as financially speaking. And of course, at the end of the day, we all know where this is heading. So that's why I believe that the spiritual side of things is more important. So, get your spiritual house in order first and foremost. And then God, as he promised, if you seek his kingdom first, all the things you need will be added to you, which means if it's added, you ain't got to sweat for it. So just keep that in mind. But according to your faith, be it unto you. So hopefully you get to that point. But anyway, people, be blessed, be safe, and I will see you guys later. Shalom.